never laugh as a hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in bloody sheets to drop you 6 feet underneath. They put you in a pine wood box and cover you up with dirt and rocks. It all goes well for about a week, and then your coffin begins to leak, and the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose as you begin to decompose. A slimy beetle with demon's eyes chews through your stomach and out your sides. Your stomach turns to rancid grease, and pus pours out like melted cheese. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you'll eat when you're dead. And the worms crawl out, the worms crawl in, the worms that crawl in are lean and thin, the ones that crawl out are fat and stout. Your eyes fall in and your hair falls out, your brain turns into maggot pie, your liver starts to liquefy, and for the living all is well as you sink further into hell. And the flames rise up to drag you down into the fire where you will drown. Your skin melts off as you descend, and Satan tears you limb from limb. Your suffering will never end. And the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, they'll eat your guts and then shit them out. And when your bones begin to rot, the worms remain, but you do not. So don't ever laugh as a hearse goes by, for someday you'll be the one to die. And when death brings his cold despair, ask yourself, will anyone care?
Alright, we're going to be getting started here shortly. Just getting everything all together. Alright. How you guys doing tonight? Oh shit, I see we already got quite a few people in the chat. Let me actually scroll up, see who's all in here with me. What's going on, Play? Paris Scrub. What's going on, Fiend? What's going on, Chuck? Of course, Abby, who is not in bed because she has schools tomorrow. Hey, what's going on, Ranger? What's going on, Devin? What's going on, Nicholas? And Gabe, how you doing? Getting ready to get started for some Child's Play 2, Abby's favorite movie. So you got back from a funeral, Fiend. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. My cousin used to hate Chucky and any other dolls. That's pretty much Abby at this point. I'm curious, Fiend. Who died? Yes, it is, Abby. It's your favorite movie. You already said it. It's already been said. It's done. You've already did it. My dignity. Let's all have a moment of silence for the Fiend's dignity. Speaking of Chucky, I'm off for more Chucky versus Buddy action the coming morning. Ooh, you're going to be doing some more. Is that what you're saying? I'm interested to see what you do, Paris. That whole concept, I want to see where you guys go with it. All right. Meanwhile, let's jump over to the commentary. Okay, moment's over. I get the reference, Devin. Oh man, start doing the Darth Vader breathing. Or no, I guess in terms with that, it's like me screaming, like, "I hate you!" Oh, why did Friday the 13th the game piss you off, Gabe? And of course, to acknowledge Paris, scrub. Oh, thank you, Play. Thank you. Yes, that is Abby's favorite poster. She saw it and was like, it has to go up there. Matter of fact, she may have one coming to go on her wall at some point with her own Chucky doll as well. Hey, what's going on, our boy? Close your eyes and count to 7. When you wake, you'll be in heaven. Is that on this one? Or was that in part 3? I think it was in this one. It's been a while since I watched this one. So the reason I don't like Halloween 2018 because they don't follow 1 through 8. I mean, technically 7 and 8 don't follow 1 through 6, and 3 doesn't follow any of them if you go about all that. So you kind of have to look at it from the standpoint of alternate timelines, alternate universes, and all of them can exist in their own pockets, like sort of like pocket dimensions, I guess you could say, like dimensions, I guess. So it's in this one at the end? Okay. I'll be on the lookout for it. Because I loved that when I heard it. I just couldn't remember which sequel it was. 2 dudes troll baited me and ran through the Tommy house, back and forth and out the windows and back, and I played Ring Around the Rosie at least 100 times. Legitimately got me so mad that I rage quit to the home screen. Oh, wow. I've been there before, Gabe. And it's like you think on there, like, eventually they would run out of stamina, but given some of the characters on there, they tend to, like, seemingly just never run out. That, or by the time you're done, you have to, especially if they're still working on the car and stuff like that, you gotta then try to keep your focus on all that shit going on and get back around to that. And then you come back and they're still in the same spot doing the same thing. But I guess with something like a time limit kind of play, they try to use that to your advantage. So you're going to have to either catch them, especially if they're the last ones in there. Like personally, I think with Friday the 13th, Jason should be able to pick up bear traps. I mean, it could be considered OP, but I always felt like Jason, like the trapper on Dead by Daylight, should be able to pick up bear traps and move them around. Like even the counselor bear traps, he should be able to pick up and move around. It shouldn't be that he can't do anything but step into them. That I think was a major mistake. Like if I'm Jason and I see there's a bear trap there and there's literally no way for me to get over without shifting, that presents a huge problem because they're going to either A, be able to stay in there while other people are working and you're sitting outside because you know there's a victim in there that you can get to, or B, they just you just walk through it and then they escape through a window and haul ass and they got one of the faster characters. So and you might have a walking Jason. Like I feel like if Jason can pick up the throwing knives, he should be able to pick up the bear traps too. How would I rank the Star Wars series? I mean, I have an idea of how I would rank them, but with those kind of movies, I more watch them for certain moments than I do the entire narrative because it's been a while since I actually sat down and watched all the Star Wars movies back to back to back to back and just soaked in the narrative to really figure out which one I like a lot better. I mean, I know for me, out of all of them, my favorite would be actually episode 3, like Revenge of the Sith. Misa wants to be in the next Star Wars film. I mean, I could deal with that too. Any kind of reusable traps that Jason could get, Gabe, like I think kind of makes it scarier because then you end up with assholes like me that jump into a game that goes into a round with Jason that I know if I know it's like part 7 Jason and I know he only has 3 bear traps and I'm not really worried about surviving anyways, I will run my ass through all 3 of those bear traps, especially if I have a hell spray. I will run right through all of them and just completely take out all the bear traps before pretty much you can really do anything else. Or especially if I'm going to die. Like if I know I'm going to die and there's a bear trap there, I might as well be some kind of savior to the team and just dive into the bear trap to try to take it out. If it's part 2 Jason, he has so many fucking bear traps that you might not be able to take them all out. But I would want it to be where Jason can at least pick up bear traps. And if one bear trap is used, he could place another bear trap over it. Maybe the bear trap that he originally had there, they disappear, they're gone, and you could place another one there. So that way you can really keep certain things trapped, because it doesn't make any sense. You get the fuse box, you get that trap, someone steps in it, you can't trap it really again. You have to go around it and hope that one of the other players is dumb enough to really jump into the spot that you see, like did you put the trap on. So I mean, I guess it's give and take, but personally I would prefer that Jason's traps don't get destroyed when you step in them. Maybe if you use your pocket knife on it, it destroys it. But Jason, there should only be a couple of pocket knives on the map that can actually do that. And then all the other ones, I think Jason should be able to reuse. Personally. Hey, what's going on, Crash? How you doing? React my music. Probably if I was going to, not in this stream. Maybe one in the future, but not this particular one. Hey Ty, how you doing? Finally saw Joker? Glad you liked it. Could the little person in the Joker be the Penguin? I don't think so. Knowing a lot of the stuff about the Joker tends to favor what you would call freaks. And especially little people tend to be part of Joker's menagerie. Especially if you look at the Killing Joke, there's a couple little people in there. So it's just a nod to sort of that aspect of the character. I mean, Return of the Jedi is good too. Like, I really like Return of the Jedi, but just the in fight scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin, that just, there was so much to love in Revenge of the Sith. You underestimate my power. Oh man. But all right, we gave enough time. We should be ready to start the movie, I believe, right? We all got our Child's Play 2 movies at the ready, I assume. Oh man. If they were to make a Joker sequel, who would I cast as Batman? Or if they were to use Batman in the sequel. I mean, personally, all the iterations of the live action Batman have either, I mean, not all of them. I can't say that because I think the only guy that was really in buff shape was Ben Affleck. But personally, I would kind of want to go with an alternate take on Batman for that. Because there was I believe it was in on the channel Comics Explained, where I think it was a comic book, The Deaths of the Dark Knight or something like that. I forget what it is, the actual title, which I may look that up after this. But it shows, there's one particular story on there where Batman, after his parents died, he wanted to become a hero. So he goes through all this training, puts on the mask, puts on the cape, and it comes to find out he gets killed. Like, Batman gets shot and killed. I think he gets shot and killed, but I know he dies either way. And his spirit is like watching his funeral with all of his villains there. Like the Joker, Penguin, all of them are coming up giving a eulogy for Batman. If I'm not explaining this right, please let me know. But from what I remember, they're all giving their eulogy, and it turns out that the whole thing was set up by Alfred, who also doubled as the Joker for Batman. And the whole thing was Batman was, after his parents died, was so broken mentally that Alfred decided to help him in his quest by sort of manufacturing these supervillains for Batman to fight. So pretty much what ends up happening is over the years he's fighting these villains, he's beating them, he's thinking he's doing good, but in all actuality it's all fake. Everything is fake. But one of the people that Alfred hired, I think it was the Riddler, actually starts going crazy and thinks he's actually the Riddler. And he's the one that kills Batman. And the whole time Batman's watching this and he's coming to terms that none of this was real. Like his spirit is watching it. And turns out the whole time the other spirit that's there with him, watching over all this with him, turns out to be his mother, Martha. And they're able to pass over. And Alfred's like in tears, and like it's a really good story. Like if you guys can find it, it's definitely something worth at least listening to on Comics Explain. Ben Affleck Batman versus Christian Bale Batman. Ben Affleck Batman. He would destroy Christian Bale's Batman. Batman is technically the persona of Batman isn't in the Joker movie. Bruce Wayne, however, is. This is prior to him becoming Batman, and there is something at the end that ties directly to Batman's story. But yeah, that's kind of what I would do with Batman, since in a Joker sequel, just because I feel like with the tone they set in Joker and the world they built, I think the whole mental illness thing should play a big part in Batman's story as well. To show that pretty much he's so mentally broken over his parents' murder in front of him that when he actually becomes Batman, a good portion of it is false. And he starts having delusions of grandeur, much like the Joker does. And it sort of plays itself out very similarly. At least that's kind of the way I would do it. Because, I mean, we've seen Batman jumping off buildings. We've seen Batman be the hero. We've seen Batman kill people. We've seen Batman do a bunch of shit. All in the hero realm, and we're going to get another hero Batman, kind of. I mean, I know Robert Pattinson has said that Batman's not exactly a hero in his mind, but we're going to get Batman as a hero in his movie. There's no way we're not going to. But I think if we were to continue the Joker movies, and the Batman that we get in there should fit the aesthetic. It should be where Batman is just as broken as the Joker. And in turn, because of what the Joker did, should ultimately lead to the creation of Batman. Have I seen The People versus George Lucas? I have not yet. No, the Joker movie, it's implied to be all in his head, but it's only certain scenes. If you're watching the whole thing, there's only really like certain scenes that you can really point out that it's all in his head. Personally, I think the Joker stops hallucinating once the moment he puts on the face paint. Like he becomes someone completely different. I don't think he's hallucinating at that point. Technically, Ty, I think because I know in Batman 1989 it's implied that the Joker killed Batman's parents. But from what I remembered hearing somewhere, there was a fan theory that says that Batman himself, he's so mentally broken, at least in that first movie, that whenever he comes across a villain, he puts the face of that villain onto the shooter of his parents. Maybe constructs a younger version in his mind. And that's how he works. That's how he operates. So pretty much with that, it would have technically been like if the Penguin popped up in Batman Returns, and he goes to that same memory. Now the Penguin's face is on the shooter, it's like a younger version of the Penguin, and he goes from there on. I mean, there's nothing to corroborate it, but I mean, I could see that being motivation for Batman. I just want to see more Batman with a gun. Well, you might get your wish. Because from what I heard, The Flash is still supposed to be a Flashpoint movie. So we might see Thomas Wayne Batman. Oh, man. I mean, I think if Batman and Spider-Man were to ever fight, it would likely be an animated movie. You'd never see it live action. Never see it live action at all. And even then, if they were to fight, it would be 5 minutes and then they would team up. That's ultimately what they would all. That's pretty much what they would think would sell DVDs. Like, but you never see them in a full out fight. All right. Let's get into it. So, for anybody watching outside of get over here. Okay. Anybody watching on Facebook, Mixer, Twitch, or any of those other platforms that you seem to be watching me on right now. The way this works is I have my copy of the movie from the poster that you see here. Poster's over here, not over here. Never get used to that. It's over here. Um, the way it's going to work is I'm going to have my movie ready to go. I will give a countdown. Once I say play, you'll hit play, I'll hit play, we'll watch the movie together, and hopefully if I make mention of something happening on the screen, it should be happening on your screen as well. Give or take a couple of seconds. So let me prepare myself. Hey Buzz, what's going on? We are just getting started, getting to the movie. I was getting ready to give the countdown. Oh, thank you, Chuck. Thank you. And with that being said, we begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play. Ooh. I had that a little loud. You know the Amityville movies are coming at some point. They're gonna be coming. I mean, wouldn't there still be some blood and innards inside of the Chucky doll? Or is it because they killed Chucky that I guess the doll kind of reverted back? Because I mean, he's supposed to have been becoming human. So wouldn't there have been some human aspects remaining? And they got him looking fresh, except for them teeth. And I mean, with putting on new skin over the metal plate, wouldn't that be more like him wearing a mask? Yeah, it's like no bullet hole from the head either. You are right, Gabe. He is anatomically correct, you know. Oh, it looks like they got rid of the fleshy hole. Oh no, there's the fleshy hole. How many of the Amityville movies do I own personally? I have a good. I think I'm maybe missing maybe a handful of them, max. But I got a good portion of them. What are my thoughts on cinematic universes? I mean, they could definitely work, but I think where people go wrong on cinematic universes is they feel the need to tie a narrative into all of them. You don't need to tie one narrative into an entire cinematic universe. Movies and characters can exist in the same world and ultimately never cross paths. If something brings them together, fine. Perfect. I love it. But there's no reason that you should have to force any kind of narrative over an entire universe that you're trying to build. Like the Dark universe. If you were going to tie that together, the way they started with the mummy should have been just about the mummy. It shouldn't have had any Easter eggs towards anything else. Should have just been trying to make the mummy scary and going from there. All these other dark creatures should exist on their own in other various parts of the world so you can establish them and let them breathe on their own to create their own identity. Then, in a movie where someone's hunting these things, then you can bring them together. That's another great theory to discuss, JG. Yeah, it definitely is. Like everything that they've done to Chucky on here, you could probably make an argument that like why some of it shouldn't work technically, or how things should be like connected to him as he's becoming human. Because technically, once he dies in this one and his blood drops in a vat of the plastic, molten plastic, you could have technically made him a 100-foot tall Chucky doll or a completely different design, but because his blood was inside the plastic, he could have consciously taken it over. Andy's teeth is jacked up there. I just noticed that. It's always been a fixation of mine, like looking at teeth as soon as I see people. Like, you look like you've been chewing on rocks. Hey, Alphonse, how you doing? Should Child's Play 3 be the reason why Chucky can transfer his soul into multiple dolls? No. Pretty much Child's Play 3, he was still stuck into the... I mean, unless you go by the one theory that I said before with his blood in the plastic sort of giving way. But the only thing that kind of is against that is that he can also transfer his essence into a human while with the dolls. So it kind of like works both ways on that. Personally, I just think it's like he said, like he learned a new voodoo incantation that allowed him to take over each doll. That took a really interesting turn there, Gabe. I'm like reading intently with the whole theory, and then he's like, you know what? It's up his butt the whole time and cursing Colt. Which may actually be the case. Like the heart of Dimbala becomes the butthole of Dimbala. Oh, thank you, Alphonse. Jason Mewes as Tommy. I would not be able to take him seriously. I would only be seeing Jay from Jay and Silent Bob the entire time. There'd be no way I'd be able to watch it. That's true too, Buzz. Or because didn't he say it to him after he died? So technically, would that still be a valid reveal? I can respect that, horror boy. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the tone that Bride of Chucky set. And I definitely was not anywhere near of a big fan of what they did with Seed of Chucky. Seed of Chucky was, in my honest opinion, terrible. I mean, other people may like it, that's perfectly fine, but to me, I did not like Seed of Chucky at all. But once we got to Curse of Chucky, I really liked that return to form. Cult of Chucky was sort of the middle ground. Like we had some very comedic moments, we had some good, pretty good gore. And I mean, it was as much of a Chucky movie as we could get before reaching that Bride and Seed of Chucky kind of realm. Yeah, the dad just looks so like he's like why are we getting kids? Like that's pretty much what he's like looking like. Like maybe it's like the mother's kind of it's her I wouldn't say obsession, but it's like I guess her hobby collecting kids, if you can say that. Like she feels the need to try to mother goose kids, I guess. Bill Mosley as Crazy Ralph. I mean, that could work too. I think Bill Mosley could pull that off. Baby Yoda versus Darth Jar Jar. I'm going with Baby Yoda. I'm going with my heart on that one. It's the plague. Oh, fuck that. Like, have they even looked up his history? Oh, no, no, Alphonse. You are not the only one at all that wants to see a Friday the 13th film take place in the snow. That's why I'm actually really excited about Womp Stomp's prequel to Never Hike Alone. Never Hike in the Snow is going to be fucking fantastic. Which that was part of the reason why I did my one Friday the 13th story concept as well. To put Jason in the snow. Pretty much, Gabe. I mean, and there's like literally no emotion from Chucky. Like, holy shit, I'm fucking alive. How is this even possible? Do I think a Halloween Friday the 13th crossover will ever happen? I I would probably say no. But I mean, I could be wrong. I would probably say, just judging by what the hoops we would have to go through for Friday the 13th to be a part of it, of a movie along with Halloween, I would probably say no. Even after the lawsuit. Unless for some reason the production company that is leased over to make Halloween movies, whether it be Blumhouse or it goes to someone else after Halloween ends, if they're able to also at some point acquire the rights to Friday the 13th from both Sean and Victor, then I would probably say we have a much better chance. But right now, with the Friday the 13th rights being split the way they are, and likely staying that way, I would have to go with no right now. You can't see that Chucky's a doll out like his. I mean, I guess he is wearing glasses, but I'm assuming he's not completely fucking blind. I mean, you could write it that way, Ty, where she's a student of Loomis. I just personally, because of Loomis's character, I don't know how he would train more than one person at a time. And because I mean his obsession being with Michael that entire time. Like I could see him training Dr. Sartain, but I can't see him actually being a teacher to a bunch of people. Personally, Ty, I don't care where Friday the 13th goes, as long as whoever gets it treats it with the same seriousness and watching over its continuity like Frank Mancuso did. At least for the first 6, 7 movies. But I can almost guarantee, like I've said before, like as much as I know you don't like it, Friday the 13th, much like Halloween, is going to get retroactively rebooted. I don't know what sequel they're going to start with, but they are definitely going to end up doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do it with A Nightmare on Elm Street too. Oh no, I get what you mean, Gabe. I get exactly what you mean when it comes to Bride and Seed like that. When looked at it from that perspective, I can watch those movies no problem. But it's like when you're trying to watch it to gain the same feeling you got from Child's Play 1 through 3, it's it's not it doesn't coincide well. But as dumb fun entertainment, it's fantastic. Watching Chucky flip stoners off and the way he kills people and having Tiffany to banter with, it's all good. Like that's really good as standalone non-canon things. But then when you start saying this is Child's Play 4, this is Child's Play 5, and you have the actors like Jennifer Tilly in the movie playing Jennifer Tilly, but is also a dead ringer. Like Tiffany was a dead ringer for her. Like it's like the way they did it, they kind of started spoofing itself within its own movie. Yes, I did know that play. It's inevitable, Ty, that Friday the 13th is going to be treated like Halloween 2018. Like it's when something that successful like pops up and makes a ton of money the way it did, studios are going to copy it. And in fact, that Friday the 13th is in origin copied by like it was made as a copy to like they ripped off Halloween, as Victor Miller said. It's inevitable that it's going to follow in Halloween's footsteps. I love that. It just shows how unhinged Chucky is there. Because I mean, Ty, you already see that pretty much Tom McLaughlin wants to retroactively reboot the timeline after part 6. And I mean, the big thing when you're doing reboots to films and you're trying like when you do the Friday the 13th reboot, you do the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. A lot of the things that people hold dear from those original films is the origins. And being able to, like you have like Jason drowned in 1957. He has his origin. Pamela has her, because I mean, you look at it like this: the Friday the 13th remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it got mostly criticized from a lot of people that I've seen because it wasn't an actual remake of part 1. You got 5 seconds of Pamela and all of Jason through the rest of the movie, which doesn't necessarily constitute as a remake. It has nothing to do with the first movie aside from Pamela being decapitated. So you make Pamela, who was this monumental figure in part 1, now a footnote in your new series. So if you're going to go back and remake it or reboot the series, why not use Friday the 13th Part 1 that's already established? You already have Pamela as your killer and build off of that basis, since you don't have to remake that and you can go straight to Jason, which is what people want anyways. Like it depends on your reasoning. It's not necessarily lazy storytelling or anything like that. I wouldn't go that far, and I would never go that far. I would think with something like that opens the narrative to an entirely new timeline, to an entirely new series of stories that you probably couldn't tell otherwise. Pa- the robots on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride used to be anatomically correct? Really? I don't think you have to worry about political correctness with Tom McLaughlin's script in a Friday the 13th film, Ty. Like, not at all. Like, if there's going to be political correctness in it, it's going to come from Tom McLaughlin himself. Hollywood hates the slasher genre in general. The production companies love the money that it can make, but they hate the genre in general. So you won't have to worry about any kind of political correctness. Not unless they are trying to kill their target audience in order to make said profit. So you never have to worry about that. Like, not unless Tom McLaughlin is on some weird political correctness kind of social justice warrior kind of thing or anything like that in his script. I don't think that's something you really need to worry about. Yes, I completely agree with that, Buzz. Like, they should have done the Friday the 13th, the 2009 reboot should have been retooled and rewritten as a sequel to part 1 with little flashbacks to Alice Hardy and Pamela Voorhees and going from there. Like, you don't need to change the years or anything like that. You could have everything that happened in part 1 happen in the year that it was meant to happen. And then go from there in a new 1984 timeline. And go from there on. I wouldn't say Cult was necessarily bad just because I know what it was intended to set up, Harboy. When I watched Cult, I already heard rumblings of a TV show. So I kind of felt like with the way they were going with Cult, it was going to lean heavily into the TV show's narrative. I don't think they were expecting the TV show to take this long to get off the ground, though. So if you're watching it as a standalone, I completely understand your standpoint to it. But if you're also watching it from the perspective that they're probably going to be turning the Chucky films into transitioning from movie to TV, it makes sense. Because Chucky now has the ability to make or put his essence in all of these dolls. What better way to keep seasons going with multiple Chucky dolls? Like one Chucky doll per season. So that's kind of the mindset I looked at it as. Like from, I mean. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Buzz. That's exactly the reason. I mean, you look at it, that's why we've gotten so many Conjuring universe based movies and no fucking Nightmare on Elm Street. The only time an alternate universe actually worked narratively is Star Trek 2009. Technically, I mean, I could understand that, but I mean, because like I'm thinking throughout the horror genre, because I mean, to say something like that kind of implies that even remakes don't necessarily work, because I mean that is an alternate that's an alternate reality based on the same material, which we know that is definitely not the case. And alternate universes, success wise, and even through a narrative kind of standpoint, I mean, I know you don't like it, but Halloween 2018 is the benchmark for that, because that takes the narrative of what John Carpenter originally intended for the shape and work that into a new movie. Granted, not everyone likes it. I get that. I understand that completely. You don't have to like it just because I do. But from a narrative standpoint, and Michael Myers being shrouded in mystery, they accomplished exactly what they wanted to accomplish. And they were highly successful with it. Technically, the way I look at remakes, Ty, is it should take the original script and mold that, changing pieces here and there, especially if it's a murder mystery like the original Friday the 13th was supposed to be. Which is why when I did my story concept, utilizing Roy Burns again as a killer, while Pamela also had her part in it, and then Jason makes his appearance in it. Like, it was elements that was taken that we love from the original series and the original movie, flipped some things on its head, but still ultimately told the same story that was in Victor Miller's original script. It should not ever, a remake should never be a completely different story under any circumstances, because then it's not a remake. It's a standalone story with the license. Oh no, I completely agree, Harboy. Like, it was not scary. I mean, it had some funny moments. Like when, I mean, to me personally, when the one crazy lady came out into the hallway and her and Chucky had their interaction, I thought that was hilarious. I mean, there was other things that I didn't really warm up to or anything like that was joke wise, but that part had me fucking dying. The But knowing that where it was going narratively, and I think at that point in time I appreciated it even more, just because I did have to sit through a couple of really cheap B and C horror movies that I ultimately was like, you know what, this isn't that bad. So I mean, it could be just the timing that I had with it. They need a horror cinematic universe with all the slashers like the MCU. I did do a video on that, 1980 Riley. I mean, it would be a pretty nice thing to have, like a slasher verse. But again, I don't want all of them to tie into one narrative. I would want them all to have their own stories and maybe lead up to an arc where they tie in narratively, but not all at once in the beginning. I bet, Gabe. I might have to adopt that myself. Take it to work with me. The Prom Night remake might as well have been another Prom Night sequel. Very true. Very true. I mean, the room isn't that big. She should be able to, like, just throw some shit around and find them. I mean, literally, it's a couple of shelves in a rack. Like, move some of that shit. Creepshow 2 is underrated. Why do you think nobody talks about it? I'm not sure why. Because Creepshow 2 is fucking outstanding. Not even just for the short stories alone, but the overall narrative between the stories with the Venus flytraps. That is fucking, that's memorable. It was super memorable for me as a kid. Now, how do you beat someone with a yardstick to death, assuming, and not break it? I've seen those yardsticks in school and crack someone with it a couple of times. That thing's breaking in half. Even if you're hitting them from the side, that thing's gonna snap. I think that was Gabe. What film did I enjoy watching in theaters? I mean, to be completely honest, a movie that I watched that I really, really got into, and it's only because I'm a huge DC fan and Batman. Obviously, I'm a Batman fan because I mean, I have the fucking suit. So obviously, I'm a Batman fan. But it would have been Batman vs Superman or Halloween 2018. I would probably lean more towards Batman vs Superman because once every time Batman showed up, I perked right up in that movie, and to me that movie for it to be what 2 hours long, if not more, fucking to me that just flew by. and instantly was a Blu-ray buy for me, especially once the Ultimate Cut came out. I got that. Halloween 2018, that went by fast for me too in the theater, and I was loving every bit. Once that the beginning intro scene came up with the deflated rotten pumpkin and started rejuvenating itself, I looked at that as such a symbolic thing that I really fucking got into the movie from there on out. But I mean, very rarely do I go to a movie theater, experience something, and not have it be a really good experience. My cat is attacking the cat in the mirror. My dog tends to make out with herself in the mirror. Look at the foster father's eyes. You can tell he's killed before, he'll kill again. He must be stopped. MCU or DCEU? Which one do you think has the better films? I mean, I loved Man of Steel and I loved Batman vs Superman. Suicide Squad was iffy for me. I mean, it was okay. I watched it in the theater and I liked it, but there was some character choices that I really did not like. So I mean, it was kind of like that. Justice League felt like it was missing something for me. I mean, there's certain parts that I did love on there. I mean, like, as much as people give them shit about Steppenwolf, I felt like Steppenwolf was a hell of a villain. Like, I liked him. But I would probably have to go with, if they would have kept the tone from Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, I would have went with the DCEU all day. Just because I love the darker tone, I love that people are being fucking murdered. I love that they were, where the Marvel movies were considered more kid friendly, the DC movies were like, fuck that. No, we're going to be a bit rougher, a bit harder edged. And I did like that for that. Because I mean, when you're reading the comics, even granted, I haven't read many Marvel comics as of late. I do go through some of the stories that they have through Comics Explained and stuff like that. DC comics I do read, and some of the stories in the DC comics alone lends itself to being that kind of tone. What's my thoughts on the Psycho remake? It was useless. It did not need to be done. To me, it made more sense if they were going to remake Psycho to follow the books, to make a readaptation and not a remake of Hitchcock's movie. Because Norman Bates and some of the things that happened in the Psycho book are changed for Hitchcock's movie. And they should have readapted it for that reason. And with that, they would have stood better chances of getting sequels to remake all of the Psycho books. Oh, is he like biting his ear? Yeah, the father is like very dickish. So my thing is, because as we see in Cult of Chucky, when he finally gets into a human body, does the other soul exist within that body as well? Hmm. You gotta love those animatronic effects. Ooh. So, which film franchise do you think has the perfect villain? For me, it's controversial. The best villain for a film franchise is Megatron from the first three Transformers films. Oh man, franchise. Because I mean, like, obviously excluding like the big horror titles like Friday the 13th and stuff like that. But which horror franchise? Because I mean, do they have to make multiple appearances throughout the movie's play, or could they have made just like one or two? You're killing me, Devin. Oh man, I would say by that, it's hard for me not to give some respect to Shredder from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. He was a hell of a fucking villain. And that end scene with them fighting on the rooftop where Shredder's just dismantling all of them, he just had a really bad fucking ending to that fight, which should have never happened. Because, like, just the way Shredder in that first movie conducted himself with the Foot Clan and how it showed that, how it showed him dealing and keeping these kids in line. It, it was definitely that movie and him as a villain deserve a whole lot more respect. I'm at to sleep with one eye open just in case the foster father comes to get me, Devin. My thought on the remake of Child's Play, I thought it was a pretty interesting story. I thought the remake was entertaining. it had some pretty good effects aside from some really fucked up CGI scenes. But overall, I think what it suffered from, much like I've said in the past with Rob Zombie's Halloween films, was that it was on the Child's Play license. If it was called something else, like My Buddy or Buddy or something like that, and ran on its own merits, granted, it likely would have made less money at the box office. I think it would have created its own franchise onto itself, and it would have gained its own fan base without being associated with Child's Play or Chucky. But if you divorce yourself from the Child's Play name and the Chucky name and look at it as its own standalone story, it has nothing to do with the other Child's Play movies. If you're able to divorce yourself from all of that, it's a pretty decent movie. I liked it. But when you incorporate that, and you know it's a Child's Play movie, you know it's a Child's Play remake, you know that's Andy Barclay, and that's Detective Norris, that's where things get murky for it. Because now you're playing with characters that we love, and they're not what we recognize. But that's also why a lot of studios are now looking at what Halloween 2018 did with the retroactive reboots. Because now if you were to redo that and have it where Child's Play 1 happened, and you're able to go from there on with someone else using that same setup, you already have that past. You don't change anything. Fans are all from the original series are already happy with that. So now you're able to open up a narrative that doesn't involve that. But it still exists. It's still canon. And go from there. You imagine at some point if the foster father had like Chucky tied up somewhere, torturing him the whole time? Oh, you have a good night, Nicholas. I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. Yes, 300 isn't a remake. In a sense, it is a the movie 300 by Zack Snyder is based off the comic book, which is a retelling of the actual story, but it's a fictionalized retelling of it. So it's not necessarily because I know they did a movie way, way, way back. I think it was wasn't it like 300 Spartans or something like that. It was called this. The Zack Snyder movie 300 is not a remake of that. It is an adaptation of the fictionalized retelling of the comic of historical events. Giant robot movie. I don't know if I have a favorite. Yeah, I could definitely agree with that, Horror Boy. I imagine hardcore fans hated the Child's Play remake, and fans that are a little bit more open minded um, kind of leaned into it with open arms a little bit more. 300 Spartans was made in 1960. I knew there was like one. I thought that was the one I remembered seeing. Yeah, because I think the 300 comic book that was written in. I don't know who did the artwork for it, but I believe that was done by Frank Miller, wasn't it? Is the Sarlacc pit a fleshy hole? One may believe so. With teeth around the rim. Which reminds me, this came up the other day. Has anybody else ever seen the movie Teeth? I can't be the only one that's seen that. Or me and Amanda can't be the only ones that have seen that. I would describe it, but I feel like describing it may get me demonetized. So I'm not entirely sure if I should. That's gotta be a lot of force to get someone to fly through the fucking windshield like that. What horror film do I think has the most potential for 2020? I mean, like I said, Antlers looks good. I feel like there should be something else too. I mean, obviously, aside from Halloween. I mean, right now, Antlers is on my big, like, time movies I want to watch. Does anybody have eyes on the foster father? Where is he? Is he killing again? The foster father was actually undead the entire time, driven by a blood curse that Chucky never saw coming. What's my thoughts on the Dawn of the Dead remake? I love the Zack Snyder remake. I mean, granted, I did have my disagreement with how the zombies should have been made. I thought it should have been left like the Romero movies, like no matter what, if you die, you come back, whether you're bitten, whether you're shot, whether you're hung, whether you have a heart attack, whatever. I thought you should come back from that because that would have made it where like where they're all having fun within the mall and they're going about their daily life. When some shit does happen and one of them dies and one of them turns, that should have been leading into more tension between everybody in there. Because anybody, especially some of the older people, like if you had a bunch of old people in there, you would have it where people might want to quarantine them off because they're afraid they might not make it through the night. So there was certain aspects they could have added to it that would have been pretty cool. But overall, as an overall like film, it was great. I loved it. Ooh. I don't know. Chucky there kind of has that New York kind of accent. Oh yes, Buzz. Teeth is pretty disturbing, especially when it bites off a certain appendage and drops it and a dog comes over and starts eating it. Yeah. It's pretty fucking disturbing. I wouldn't say people wouldn't like it, Ty, because I mean, you would still have a good fan base for that version. Like that version still technically exists in one of the worlds in the comics itself. That would be a hell of a fucking team up there, Alphonse. The Day of the Dead remake? Oh, fuck no. Oh, no. We dare not speak of such things. The Day of the Dead remake where zombies are fucking pulling Spider-Man moves and jumping on ceilings and shit. And we have vegan fucking zombies. Oh, no. I can't. I can't. It's like they wanted to be so. My belief is much like with a lot of the Hellraiser movies. I think that the Day of the Dead remake started out as its own thing, and possibly would have probably been made by Asylum, the same people that did Z Nation. Because if you watch Z Nation, those zombies act very much like those zombies on Z Nation. I think that was originally going to be a project similar to Z Nation that something like Asylum was going to make. And they knew that they had a very bad piece of shit story on their hands. And they probably wasn't going to be able to make any money off of it. So what they did was slap on a familiar title, throw George Romero's name on it just because it's a remake of one of his films, add some story elements from Day of the Dead, and just go from there. Am I a fan of prequel horror movies? Yeah, I like prequel horror movies. Um, Primarily ones. I mean, the problem with prequels is that if it involves a character we're familiar with, that we've grown accustomed to, we know where the story ultimately is going to end. But if you can give a prequel story that like for example, the Thing prequel, I felt like was decent enough. I liked the Thing prequel, to be completely honest, because I felt like it told a pretty good story. We know some parts that they were supposed to hit because we watched John Carpenter's The Thing, and we know what that base looks like when they go back to it. And we know of the Norwegian that is shooting at the dog. There's the part. Stop thinking about teeth and where the hell's that fall. Yeah, I seen your comment, Devin. Oh, Sarah Connor would destroy Lori from 2018. Am I going to do my Bloody Valentine movie review? I mean, I haven't really dove into actual movie reviews the way I wanted to. I did one for the reboot of Puppet Master. And I did one for Halloween 2018. And I think I did one for another movie, I feel like. Could be wrong, because I only did like a handful at best. But I mean, I could always get into reviews. And Chucky needs to brush his fucking teeth. Chucky going on a fucking tirade. How about a commentary of the movie? I think I'll probably do that. Especially on Valentine's Day that's coming. I think I can roll with that. When is Valentine's Day? Matter of fact. Like, what day does that fall on? Alright, so Valentine's Day, yeah, it's on one of my days off from the stream. So what I'll end up doing is either the Wednesday before or the Sunday after. I'll do a My Bloody Valentine's Day commentary. The foster father behind everything. That'd be interesting, especially if they showed like some reason that he's like connected to Chucky in some kind of way. I mean, technically, you could drop kick the shit out of Chucky there. Because, I mean, technically, he's still human. He's just tiny. Well, I get kind of a double hit on that tie. Because, I mean, not only is Valentine's Day, but it's also me and Amanda's anniversary. So it's kind of like we get double hit with that. I'd be a hell of a twist, Alphonse. Oh, yeah, I can agree with that, horror boy. Did I ever play the video game Cold Fear? I don't believe so. Hey, Husky fan, how you doing? So you definitely don't forget that. Oh no, no, no. We don't forget that day. Or we might not see JG on the stream for a very, very, very long time. I might be locked somewhere in the basement with chillin'. We might become roomies. See, while this is happening in the movie, the foster father just killed the paramedics and is escaping and looking for more victims. His bloodthirst could never be quenched. Got Chucky doing his best Blade from Puppet Master impression with the knife in the arm. I mean, a sequel to the thing definitely would work. Although I wouldn't have McCready there. I mean, I would have him there, but I would have him dead. Because if I was to bring new people into the story, I don't want them knowing anything about the alien. I would want the alien frozen again. The bodies of everybody still there. But then again, you would think after 40 years someone would have checked that installation out, wouldn't it? So you would kind of have to start the movie maybe right after the thing, or at least initially, and then a time jump maybe 40 years into the future. If I'm in contact with Chillin' Buzz, that's exactly what I do. Oh my gosh, the sounds of Chucky in pain there. Do I like demonic toys? Yes. I loved the first one, but it seems like pretty much everything after that they completely lost any kind of quality that they had that they grabbed in that first one. I could do that too, play. Because you wonder if a couple of drops of Chucky's blood was enough to reanimate himself in a tub of melted plastic. What else could his blood be used for? For magical properties. Just see the realization on Chucky's face. I mean, you could have the government cover it up. But the thing I was thinking of, like, because you have to kind of think from a narrative standpoint, if the government covered it up, then they ultimately would inadvertently induce their own story with the thing, because they would have to go there to cover it up. And they're going to be too curious to just leave things alone, where these two scientific installations just completely went haywire. Like, nobody's answering anything. People are dead. And they're going to collect the bodies. Even if they were going to cover everything up, they would ultimately bring the bodies somewhere to be examined, which would inadvertently reawaken the thing itself. So then the question turns out, do you go one of two with Chucky there? That looks fucking sick. He actually looks almost as creepy as he does in the first film being burnt. Although one there he looks like one of the Garbage Pail Kids. Do I think McGrady or Childs was a thing? I believe one of them was. My thing would be, though, if you're going to do a Thing sequel, do you tell a similar story to what John Carpenter did? Or do you possibly bring about whatever the Thing was originally running from? Because if I remember right, wasn't the Thing, at least in the prequels, said to be like a prisoner that escaped on a ship and attacked the original pilot? I may have pulled that out of my ass somewhere, because I swear I remembered hearing something about that. Alright. Blow up Chucky's head, and that's pretty much the movie. That's definitely a fun watch. I mean, granted, I have more fun talking to you guys than watching... Oh, shit. Watching the movie itself. But I mean, it doesn't... Not a knock against the movie at all. Oh, am I opening up a present? I might be, Buzz. I might be. Something possibly for a video that I'm going to be recording after this stream. Because I apparently got something from NECA that I'm going to want to show off in a video. So stay tuned for that as well. Part 3 Jason versus Part 2 Chucky. I would probably go Part 3 Jason. I don't think Chucky would really... Part 2 Chucky being still brand new to the doll body, unless he's able to get the drop on Jason, I don't think in a head-on fight Chucky's going to win that one. Where's the foster father? Where is he? Alright, let me pull this up. Alright, that was Child's Play 2. I liked it. Like it. Always love hearing Brad Dourif, especially when he goes back into the machine, getting all the plastic parts shoved into him, and like just hearing the screams of pain that he goes through with that. Like he really sells the fucking pain sounds. Like, let me guess, it's the guy who is obsessed with candy. Nope, nope, it's not that. But yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead, head off here, so that way I can record a video. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Haven't picked a designated time for tomorrow's stream, but tomorrow's stream will be some more Dead by Daylight. I played a little bit of the PTB with the new updates and stuff like that to see how Hex Ruin and all that is. It's alright, but I changed back to the live servers. So, pretty much that's where we'll be at. Still trying to level up everything. There's a couple people I still need to level up. But, yeah. We'll be playing some Dead by Daylight tomorrow. Maybe go into a new game after that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's get your dark theory on who is the thing. I mean, we could definitely look into it. I need to do some more research on the aliens in general, especially the books that they're based off of. But I could definitely come up with something. Like, remember the foster father's still at large. I'll keep an eye out for him. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start signing out. Want to thank all you guys for sticking it out with me, watching Child's Play and talking all things horror, Transformers, and all kinds of shit. Even DC, Batman, all that. But yeah, you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. And as always, I am JG Dark, and thanks for watching.
It all goes well for about a week, and then your coffin begins to leak, and the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinochle on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose as you begin to decompose. A slimy beetle with demon's eyes chews through your stomach and out your sides. Your stomach turns to rancid grease, and pus pours out like melted cheese. You spread it on a slice of bread, and that's what you'll eat when you're dead. And the worms crawl out, the worms crawl in, the worms that crawl in are lean and thin, the ones that crawl out are fat and stout. Your eyes fall in and your hair falls out, your brain turns into maggot pie, your liver starts to liquefy, and for the living all is well as you sink further into hell. And the flames rise up to drag you down into the fire where you will drown. Your skin melts off as you descend, and Satan tears you limb from limb. Your suffering will never end. And the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, they'll eat your guts and then shit them out. And when your bones begin to rot, the worms remain, but you do not. So don't ever laugh as a hearse goes by, for some